Hey, it's me, Rich Habwhite, your Director of Programs Events here at Global Game Jam, and we're back continuing day 3 of our official Global Game Jam 2026 Prep Week webinar series. Now, do you find yourself craving that ever more realistic gaming experience? Do you find yourself craving that additional level of immersion? Well, if that is you, we have an absolute humdinger of a webinar for you today. The team from OVR are going to tell us all about their revolutionary new technology and how it is completely changing the way that you are going to experience games from now and well into the future. So we're going to get started, and the team are going to bring you an amazing introduction of all things OVR and Omara related. So let's get at it.
I want to start today by giving everyone a chance to think about a point in their childhood and their life that resonates with them. It could be your first time visiting your grandparents' house, your first time going to the beach, first time taking a hike. But in many of these circumstances, you have a smell that is associated with it, something that just comes to your mind and you feel emotionally the first time your grandmother cooked you something, and it transports you back to that moment. Scent is incredibly powerful. It's a very visceral thing, and scientifically, it is the only thing that is directly linked to the memory and emotion part of our brain. Everything else passes through our conscious part, but this goes straight to the unconscious and taps into our memory and emotion. And it makes it very powerful in how we experience the world. It influences our cognition, our behavior, and it also kind of lets us understand and create new impactful memories. Now, you're all kind of here today because you are interested in what scent can do. Now, OVR exists because we believe digital experiences should have the same impact as the real world around us in creating deep connections, emotional connections, and memory. Building scent into digital experiences is a new discipline. We're calling it scent engineering. Now, it's an exciting new thing to be a part of, and it's an exciting new thing to be building, and we greatly appreciate all of your interest in being on the forefront of this kind of cutting edge new way to tell stories. Now, I'm here, and the team is here to give you a quick primer on some of the tools that we built, the technology behind what we do, and how we think there's beneficial tools for you to be able to build compelling experiences. So today, we'll be your guides through this new process as you dive into your work. I'm Sam. I'm one of the founders of OVR and bring a lot of the reasons behind the technology, but we'll also be joined by Sarah, our head of Scentware, who will talk a lot about how scent works and the process in thinking about scent. And then George will also be with us, who is our software developer, and he'll walk you through the specifics and the process of the technology. Now, importantly, this is kind of a new way to be thinking about scent. We obviously are some of the first scent engineers in the world, and you'll be following right behind us. But we're here to give you guidelines and some of the details, but we also encourage the exploration and the creativity that you can go through. All of you are here because you're artists in your own right, and we want to give you the parameters, but let you also be the creators in this process. I'm going to start out with just a little bit of information around the hardware. Now, the Omara device is roughly the size of a AirPods Pro case, but the key thing with this technology is that it's small and it's personal. Scent needs to be something that is there when you want it and disappears when it's gone. So the ability to have a small device that can react instantaneously and get sent to the person is a very important part of this process. So this piece of technology is activated via Bluetooth and will be used and embedded into content by using Unity and Unreal plugins. The device is designed to be about 6 to 12 inches from the user, and it's so that we can have those very quick reactions with the device. It also has 16 different channels, so all of the scents are designed to be very kind of wide and categorical and cover a wide range of options and opportunities. Now, as I said, we'll be going more specifically into kind of all the details of what you need to know to do this correctly. And the team members who are experts in their field will be there to do the initial guiding and answer questions. And we're going to start out with the scent side of things. Again, I just want to give everyone the wide concept of why scent? Why are we doing this? We talked a little bit about the science, but it's important to kind of think about the rich depth of the world around us and trying to get those memories, emotions, and understanding of the world around us through scent into the digital space. Two key things to think of before I let Sarah take the reins. Scent is a particle, not a wave. So as opposed to light or sound, where there's kind of a instantaneous reaction to it, scent is actually a physical amount that we do want to be able to control the particles that get to the user. So both the speed of the device, but ensuring that those particles aren't just constantly being emitted becomes important. So always thinking about kind of the boundaries of scent as a particle is one thing that I do want people to be thinking too. And the other big kind of idea is when a lot of people think about digital experiences in scent, they think about the one-to-one ratio of like, oh, I see an item, therefore I should smell it. And this is absolutely a very important part of some of the things that you can create. But I do want to encourage you to think beyond that. Much like sound exists and you have sound effect, which is there to create realism, and that might be your one-to-one ratio, there's also soundtrack. And soundtrack is there to create emotion and memories and really kind of pull someone into a story, whether they're conscious of it or not. So as you're thinking about building these scent experiences, I highly encourage you to think kind of for both of those things. Where does scent belong for each of the individual components, but also how can I think about this emotionally? And with that, I want to pass it over and let Sarah do a little bit more explanation on really the explanation of scent, why it exists, and the process behind it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sosha, Director of Fragrance Innovation and R&D at OVR Technology. We've been developing an exciting new tool that integrates scent into digital experiences. Smell is often overlooked, but it subtly influences what we do, what we think, and how we feel. Now, as game developers, you can harness the power of scent in video games. It can be a creative new outlet, like a new color palette, or game defining. That part is up to you. But before we release it into the wild, I want to share what we've learned at OVR about digital scent design. Like any good tool, it helps to learn the fundamentals to avoid time-consuming mistakes. But once you've mastered this cheat sheet, you can skillfully break all of the rules to build something amazing that no one has yet thought of. Now let's get started. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 parts of scent design. 1, identifying your scent objectives. Really hone in on why you want to add scent. 2, choosing your scents. Decide what scent profiles fit your game the best. 3, map out your scent integrations. Choose how scent shows up in your content. 4, best practices for scent integrations, what works well and what to avoid. 5, tips for testing your scent-enabled content, so you can fine-tune the experience and iterate with confidence. 1, identifying your scent objectives. Your scent objective is your anchor. It guides your integration decisions when things get unclear. You can define one objective for the whole experience or set a specific objective for each scent. From the player perspective, scent can increase immersion, unlock new gameplay, or make key moments feel more emotional. Imagine in Stardew Valley, scents tied to specific locations that make the player feel like they're truly in the world. Or in Blueprints, having a scent-based puzzle that gives the player a new way to uncover clues. Or in Binding of Isaac, scent reinforcing the feeling of reward after winning a boss fight. As a developer, there are also many reasons you might want to add scent. One big one is storytelling. Scent has this unique shortcut to emotion. It's the only sense directly connected to the limbic system, the part of the brain tied to memory and emotion. So you can use a scent to instantly set the vibe and highlight important narrative moments. You can also use scent to guide player behavior. You can use it to pull attention to an object, hint that something's important, or use scent as a cue that guides their next move. And then this is where it gets really powerful, creating a memory that transcends the game. If you tie a key scene, moment, or object in your game, players might smell it in real life and transport them right back. Kind of like hearing the Mario coin sound, even when totally out of context, you know exactly where it's from. After you've identified why you want to add scent, the next step is deciding which scents you want to use. One important thing to remember when selecting scents is that smell is really personal. The valence of a scent, meaning how pleasant or unpleasant it feels, can depend on a lot of factors. One factor is intensity. Some people might love a scent at a low intensity, but if it gets too strong, they can quickly start to dislike it. And beyond intensity, genetics, culture, and past experiences can really shape how someone perceives a scent. For example, wintergreen is often seen as pleasant in the United States because it's commonly associated with candy. But in the UK, it can be considered less pleasant because people tend to associate it with cleaning products. For OVR's first scent pack, the Common Scents, you get access to 16 different scents. These scents were designed to feel familiar, but not necessarily hyper-specific. Instead of something like Sicilian lemon, you'll see broader categories like citrus. This is intentional because when scent is more categorical, you can use visuals and audio to add more resolution. In other words, the same citrus might smell more like an orange or more like a lemon, depending on what the player is seeing and hearing. The scents are also on the pleasant side of the spectrum. Just like in the real world, most people don't want to smell something unpleasant. That said, scent valence or pleasantness is a spectrum. For example, smoky and barnyard aren't the kind of scents most people would choose as a candle in their home, compared to something like sweet or beach. Next is mapping your scents. This is where scent starts to feel like a true game design tool. Some scent displays use AI sound or visual recognition, which turns scent into a simple see something, smell something system. This can be really interesting in concept, but the most meaningful scent moments aren't automatic. They're intentional. And since you, as the developer, control the scent integrations, you can use scent to shape emotion, guide behavior, and create gameplay moments players actually remember. There are three main types of scent integrations. Ambient scents, also known as environmental scents, are great for immersing the player and setting the mood. The scent connection can be realistic, idealistic, or abstract. For a beach scene, you could go more realistic with marine, which has notes of salty ocean water and hints of seaweed. Or you could go more idealized with beach, which smells like sunscreen. You can also go a more abstract route with kindred, which has hints of lavender. Since lavender is strongly associated with relaxation, it can still give the player that calm beach feeling, even if it doesn't smell exactly like the ocean. Spatial scents or interactive scents can be game-changing. This is where intentional scent design really shines. Spatial scents can influence behavior, drive new scent mechanics, as well as increase emotion and immersion. Imagine scent enabling a campfire with the smoky scent. A player might be able to smell it before they even see it, cueing them that something or someone is nearby. And it might even influence them to build more fires just to get that smell. Event scents use scent as intentional cues tied to gameplay moments. It could be the sweet smell of victory after defeating a boss, or using Machina when a player's health dips low. In both cases, scent can reinforce the emotion of the moment or even trigger behavior.
Thank you, Sarah, for the initial introduction into the world of scent. Next, we want to just move over and guide a little bit into the specifics of how you as developers will be able to integrate. George will take the lead and actually guide you through the process, kind of the step-by-step technology, so you can see the back end of programming scent in. But I do want to just highlight, again, some of the key pieces of what our technology allows and the importance of having these kind of dynamic scent experiences. So the idea of not just having scent be on or off, but being able to control it based on your proximity, your actions, your activities, and having a series of tools and components that really give you a lot of flexibility in how these get integrated. So the plugins that George will be going through are Unity and Unreal based. You'll have access to more documentation and more details as we progress. But overall, I just want people to think about it. These were designed to work very similar to how you integrate sound into an experience. So thinking about those areas of your actions, your location, and how you can create layers and complexity into the game environment. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to George to really go in depth into the process.
Hey everyone, I'm George, and this is going to be a quick walkthrough for how to scent enable a game using our plugin and the Omara device. The goal is simple. You already have a game loop. We're not asking you to rewrite it. We're just adding a few scent events at moments you probably already have in your code, like taking damage or entering an environment or taking some sort of action. What you can see on screen right now is StackObot, which is a sample/example project by Epic Games. The version of Unreal Engine we are going to be using is 5.6. So the plugin that you guys will all get provided for Unreal Engine is designed around 5.6. So I already have downloaded the StackObot project. The frame of thinking here is you already have a project, you've already built it out, you've got your assets, you probably even have like your core loop ready to go. And that's exactly what StackObot provides for us. And I've already done a pass through this game, and I've already found good spots to scent enable the game. And I will just be retracing my steps and walking you through what you would have to do initially. The most obvious first step is making sure you've downloaded our plugin. Right now, we provide it as a zip. You'll extract that, and you'll have to install it the manual way to install a plugin with Unreal Engine. So you create that plugins folder in your root folder, and copy the plugin into there. So here you can see we have the OVR AOS plugin enabled. One other thing you should do when you're messing with plugins is make sure in your content drawer that the settings you've enabled plugin content here, you have that checked. That way you can see our plugin contents. That's going to be important because we have a blueprint provided for you that you'll drag and drop into this scene or into your game world that will facilitate connecting to the Omara device. So in this case, I've already dragged and dropped it into the scene, and I have it right here. But once you have that, the quickest way, especially as you're developing, to get started with actually connecting the device is to use the OVR Quick Connect. So if I close out of that, Tools, OVR Quick Connect, and there we go. So I have my Omara device here powered on. It's green, which means it's good to go. We just need to hit play in editor so that we can actually make use of the connection manager we dropped in. So I'm going to start the game. And I'm going to navigate right here to the OVR Quick Connect. Show you what it looks like from scratch. If I disconnect here, we're no longer connected. The device will go green again, and then we can scan from start and then hit connect to connect the device. And we'll stop scan here. I already mentioned that I've scent enabled this scene, so the coins have some scents. And you'll notice some blue debug log on screen at the top left, as well as in the output log. And that will actually tell you the intensity that we're firing the odor at, as well as the odor we're attempting to fire. So again, these coins have been scent enabled. So every time we pick them up, we get a sweet smell associated with it. You'll also know it's working because the device's blue LED will flicker white a bit as we navigate here. And again, the on-screen text will verify, as well as the output log. We also have this area here, scent enabled. As we linger here, we get a nice floral scent for this experience. And as we step away from that area, the odor stops. Also the pickup event here. So when we pick it up, we get a nice odor emitted. So proceeding through what's scent enabled in this game, we've got one other area that we've put scent here, and that's right here. So we get a marine aroma here. So what happens when you take damage? We actually get the Machina aroma when this occurs. So let me run you through how we actually did all this. So I'm going to back out. So if we go into the blueprint section and we go into the character and we open up the BP bot, there's a crucial component we have to add to the bot. And that, if you go to add here and type in olfactory with the plugin enabled, you'll get the olfactory epithelium. And we've added it to the mesh of the bot. So if we click here, I've put it right about where you'd expect the robot's nose to be. Doesn't have to be exactly there. If it doesn't work for your game or the end user's experience, you can put it right in the middle, you can zero it out. You can do what makes sense for your game and move it around. Once you've added it, you just hit compile and save. The next step is actually adding some odors to your environment. So there's a 2D way and a 3D way that you can handle odors. If we go over here and search odor, I've created a blueprint odor. So I'll right click here, browse to asset. And in blueprints, in the odors folder, I created a blueprint 3D odor. If we open it up to take a look at what's going on, we just hit add again, type in search odorant, and that's exactly what we've added here is an odorant component. So to do that from scratch, I'll delete it, add odorant, and then what you would need to do is select your odorant asset that you want it to be, in this case floral, override attenuation. You can also create an attenuation asset if you want to, and you can load it up here. And then you can configure the shape. We have sphere, capsule, box, cone, and the inner and outer radius that you believe this should take. We'll move this, since it's by default floral, we'll move it to where we want it to represent floral. So about there. And I believe we have that set. And so now whenever the nose overlaps with this area, we'll get odor emitted. So I'll go ahead and hit play. So all of that was happening from coins, but now if I hang out here, we get a constant odor that scales and attenuates depending on your distance from the source and depending on the attenuation settings that you've put. How we did the coins is going to be an example of 2D. So to do that, we'll navigate to our blueprints. I believe they have it in the game elements folder, and there we go, BP coin. We'll open that up. And off of the epithelium, which is on the bot, so we get a reference to the player pawn, we cast it to the bot that we know the player is, we get a reference to the nose, and then we get access to the play odor command. Default is intensity 0 and duration 0, but if we just set those two to 1, intensity is a float 0 to 100%, 0 to 1, and that's the max. And duration, you can set for roughly how long you intend it to fire for, but right now 1 is a good value. And then you would just wire it up. And that's exactly how our coins work. So it's just wired for a trigger on collection, and it has its play sound, and now you have its play odor. The last aspect to cover is how the damage works. So whenever you take damage to emit odor, we can look at the BP bot for that. And if we search damage, we'll find event received damage. And so this is whenever the character gets damaged, they do a couple of things like visual effects, like they hit flash. And what I just added, and especially since the nose is already on the player, just get a reference to the nose. We do play odor again, and we set the odor to play to the odor asset we want to play. In this case, Machina. The robot is a machine, so you kind of get that Machina odor every time you get hit. One last thing to show is, when an action happens, how do you play an odor? And hopefully it comes to no surprise to you. Again, you would just execute play odor off of the nose. So in this example, they called it grab. So when they grab, there's grab init here, and they spawn a sound. And then right when they spawn the sound is when we play the odor. And in this case, the odor asset selected is a desert odor. So yeah, I think that covers the gist of it. If you guys have any questions, let us know. And we are very excited and look forward to seeing what you guys can make. We just scratched the surface here, so please have fun.
Thank you, George. Now we're going to have Sarah jump back in to kind of show you and do the final pieces on integrating both the scent side and the general ideas there, as well as the software and the specific integrations. I think it's important always to combine the two languages of scent and software into this new dynamic of scent engineering.
Here are a few best practices to keep in mind. First, priming is powerful. Priming is the ability to guide a player's perception using visuals, context, or words. I like to think of priming as the secret sauce behind olfactory illusions. As an example of how powerful priming is, a researcher had participants smell butyric acid. This is a chemical found both in cheese and in vomit. One vial was labeled as Parmesan, and another vial was labeled as vomit. People had completely different emotional reactions to the exact same scent, just from a difference in labeling. Another best practice is to add scent with intention. Each scent should have one clear meaning in your game. For example, if you want the Machina scent tied to smithing, you would not want to also use it as a cue for taking damage. One scent equals one purpose. Avoid overlapping too many scents. We don't currently support scent mixing, and even when we do, having too many scented objects in an area can lead to something called brown scent, where the scent gets muddled or unclear. Avoid firing the same scent continuously. This can lead to nose blindness. Think about the smell of your home. You usually don't notice until you come back from a long vacation. Your nose is a great change detector, so if you're constantly firing the same scent, your brain will start to tune it out. Now, tips for crafting a scent memory. If your goal is to create a lasting scent memory, there are 3 things to keep in mind. Emotion drives association. The stronger the feeling in the moment, the stronger the scent memory link. That's because scent and emotion are tightly connected. So if you want a powerful scent memory, tie scent to moments where players are already feeling something big, like beating a boss, unlocking a rare item, a huge narrative event. The first encounter matters the most. Scent creates fast, sticky memory associations. The first time a player smells something, their brain is assigning meaning to it. So you want that meaning to be intentional. Along with that, consistent pairing builds the association. You want reinforcement between the scent and the cue, so the player learns what the scent means. Over time, repetition is what makes the connection instant and memorable. Each scent integration type has different technical considerations when thinking about intensity and timing. For ambient scents, you want to keep the scent noticeable but not overwhelming. The scent intensity should be low to low moderate. That way it feels natural in the background instead of grabbing the player's attention. For timing, ambient scent works best in waves, not as a constant stream. You might have the scent on for about 1 to 3 seconds and then off for 15 to 30 seconds. The amount of off time should increase based on how long the player is expected to be in that environment. These considerations help prevent nose blindness and makes the whole experience feel more seamless. Spatial scents are more dynamic. Intensity should grow as the player gets closer to the source, starting with a scent being barely detectable and building up to very strong when they're right next to it. For stationary objects, like a campfire, you'll want the scent to trigger from a farther distance. For multiple objects, like a patch of flowers, you'll also want the scent area to be small, but still have the scent hit immediately when the player enters the area. When interacting with objects like picking up a flower or lighting the campfire, you want the scented area to be even smaller, and you want the scent to immediately trigger as you interact with it. For event-based scents, scent cues, you want to ensure that the player doesn't miss or confuse the link between the scent and the moment it represents. You'll generally want the intensity to be moderate to very strong, so the player gets a solid impression of the scent. For timing, the scent should be tightly aligned with the trigger and last for a short duration. This allows the player to build a clear association between the scent and the event. Tips for testing your scent-enabled content. Don't eat during testing or even 30 minutes before. Food is flavor and flavor is smell. Eating can interfere with getting an accurate scent experience. We all know gamers will eat while playing, but it's good to test content in its most pure form. When you're testing, don't wear perfume, cologne, or strongly scented body products. In the same way you wouldn't blast background music while testing sound effects, you don't want background scents to cloud your scentscape. It's important to have multiple people test your content. Scent is really subjective. Culture, genetics, and personal experiences all change how someone perceives a scent. Having multiple people test helps you understand how it will feel for different players. Another tip, test in 30-minute chunks. Test for about 30 minutes and then take a 30-minute break. This helps to prevent your nose from getting tired or tuning out the scent. You've also might have heard the myth that smelling coffee beans can reset your sense of smell. But the best reset is actually something neutral that you're already used to, like smelling your sleeve, your arm, or your clothes. Lastly, the most important tip, have fun. I can't wait to smell what you've made.
That was an awesome overview. And it's actually answered some of the questions that I had in my head when I first thought, how is all this going to kind of work? You know, and it kind of makes so much sense. It kind of makes so much sense. And there's been a lot of really good engagement, by the way, in the chat. And I've seen people feverishly typing away and answering questions, which is also awesome. I have an initial question, which is, you know, where did you just come up with the idea, you know, I want to bring back scent into gaming? I mean, who was it who had the sort of lightning bolt and thought, you know, this is where we desperately need to go?
I think that that falls pretty closely to me for that answer as one of the founders. Yep. But I have a varied background, but have been working in the scent industry for about 15 years. And myself and some of our co-founders really had the flash of insight when we had the opportunity to try kind of the new wave of virtual reality headsets. And you just saw this huge shift in kind of getting into this much more immersive, this more spot where you could really kind of experience games environments in a highly developed way. And we thought about that. And with our background, we're like, well, the thing that's missing is this piece that kind of lets us understand the world and drives our humanity. Like, we should still have that as part of our existence. So did some of our very early testing working in VR and health and gaming and other spots, and just people's reactions when they got to pick up or interact with a digital item and have it actually produce scent was the thing that we needed to say, this is something that is truly important, and this is a tool that that people need to have as part of the digital world.
And it makes so much sense, right? VR popped into the world and then it disappeared and died, and then it made a huge comeback again, and now it's kind of second nature, you know, to that level of immersive experience. And now having this additional layer of potential immersion on top, it just makes so much sense. And to see it deployed in such a neat and effective way, I think is it's really inspiring, to be honest. It's really amazing.
And will say that, like, VR was a spot that we first saw kind of where immersive experiences were, but VR isn't everywhere. So when we built the newest iteration of the technology in the Omara, it was so important that it was this personal transportable scent device that really allowed you to use it not just in VR, but to make sure desktop and mobile, anything with a Bluetooth signal, so that you could kind of scent enable the digital world around you, no matter what you were using.
Yeah, it's great, and it's so portable, and it's, you know, you expect things, particularly that are quite new. We all remember the original VR series that came out, you know, in the old days when it was this huge giant thing you had to put on your head, and this just looks slick and so very presentable. It's such a neat tool. I think there's a lot of people been really looking forward to meeting you guys this evening, because it's such an interesting avenue of exploration, as it brings a whole new dynamic to game design. And as we saw in your presentation, it's, you know, a lot of the things that you take for granted as game designers, you know, you're exploring around, and just having that additional layer. We saw somebody asking in the comments a little bit as you were speaking in the video, asking about the Spider-Man, and there's one of the levels in that game, in the Miles Morales game, where you're tracking the scent. And I've played a few games where you may be hunting and doing things like that, and this device brings a whole new level of immersion and thought into the way you might design games going forward. That's great. Do you envision a time where, this is for the future, where people may be able to devise custom scents and things like that, or do you what's your sort of thought process, or is there a kind of a roadmap where you're thinking in that direction, or is it not like that?
The short answer is we're thinking about scent all the time, as we have been. But with kind of the history and testing of what we've done, we're focused on starting on these kind of 16 more generalized categories to be able to create cassette packs that cover a wide range. We fully believe in kind of the interest and excitement on scent mixing, customization. There is no RGB or CMYK of scent, where you can take 3 components and make everything. So there's a lot of data, there's a lot of other things that are a part of the process, but our device is designed with the concept of being able to fire multiple scents at once. But since 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 in scent, there's going to be a longer term process in kind of how we are going to be building and releasing that. But the cassette that we have now is very much designed for developers to cover a wide range.
Now, thinking about the jam, the upcoming jam, the big kahuna, the thing we're going to be working towards in the next, not this weekend, but the weekend after. Now, one thing we do have this year, and you may get, if you've been following our news stories vigilantly, you will have seen that we have released this year's list of diversifiers in full. But of course, you guys, our friends at OVR, we have an exclusive OVR and Omara related diversifier. So for all of you watching, are you thinking about jamming? I hope you're going to be jamming in a week or two. There is an official diversifier that you can pick up and choose to add into your game, and it's called Fragrant Frontier is the name of the diversifier, and we are basically challenging you to stop and smell the in-game roses. And that means utilizing the OVR Unity plugin or Unreal plugin to see if you can go about replicating some of the neat stuff we've just been seeing in some of your own games. So I guess the next step is, if I'm a jammer and I'm interested in following this up, what are my next steps? What should I be doing?
I think Alex is probably the best person to speak to that side, because the organizer of some of these processes.
Yeah, hi, Rich, and thanks everyone for joining. So yeah, our Unity and Unreal plugins are available right now. Video cut off a little short there, but we'll make sure everyone has the documentation and access for those Unreal and Unity plugins. And for a select amount of jam sites, we have 6 jam sites worldwide that will actually have an Omara device on hand. Our team will be split between the NYU Game Center and the Rochester Institute of Technology at Magic Spell Studios. We will be there live helping support, but we'll also be at 4 other jam sites that has been announced on Global Game Jam social, as well as our social. So please feel free to follow each one of us there. But some really exciting opportunities to not only engage with our plugins, but also engage with the device and build with the device.
And I will.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just final add-on to that is with all of the access to the plugins and kind of the ability to build these. You know, there's our Discord server and kind of Sarah, George, myself, and our team. We want you to be creative. We want you to use some of the things we provided, but between the documentation, we're also very much available to assist in the process, to answer questions. As I said, this is scent engineering, which is a new discipline, and we want to be available to help guide you through the process.
Yeah, and you can find us at OVR Omara pretty much across the board on our Discord channel. It's called OVR Omara. That's OMARA.
Yeah, and as part of our diversifier, we're pointing you guys at the OVR site as well. So there's a huge amount of information on there. And if you have any further help, you can always reach out to us here at GGJ at the help@GGJ email or on any of our own Discord channels. And we will point you in the right direction if you have questions or you're interested in following up on the usage of the OVR diversifier. And I really hope you're interested in doing that. I certainly am, because it's so cool. I just want to play with it and see how it works, and take it to a whole new level. I have to say, it's really great. So we've got a few folks, and people are asking questions in the chat about when would this might be sort of commercially available. What's the roadmap looking like for that? What are your thoughts? I wanted to buy one.
Yeah. So as was just posted, we are in the pre-sale function. The product is going to be more specifically starting to be more public, starting more at PAX East in March. But we won't be delivering until the end of Q3, early Q4 to the larger consumer audience. Although we do have cohorts of both developers and dev kits that are actively currently developing and a series of games that are going to be released along with the product, and are always happy to have discussions with people about varying degrees of early access before the wider commercial launch.
Excellent. And by the way, we ourselves at GGJ are hosting, and as we always do, as is our tradition, a live stream series of events all around the world. So we've offered the chance for sites all around the world to join us on our official Global Game Jam live stream for the main Jam weekend. And we're really hoping that the sites that you guys are going to be working at are going to be joining us on a live stream, because I'm really curious to see how those Jam sites get on with experimenting with the tech and to see what comes out of it. I think it's going to be super interesting. So for those of you who want to follow up on this and see how folks are getting on and what kind of crazy stuff they've been able to come up with, then there'll be a good chance to do that live across the Jam weekend at the different sites that are available. And as we said, you can find out where those sites are from there. I'm just glancing at the chat, making sure we're not missing out on any interesting questions. There was one question. I'm not sure if we answered it. I'm going to ask it. This was a question that was registered as part of pre-registration, and if it's a trade secret, feel free to say so. Okay, no obligation to answer. But it's asking effectively, how does the Omara disperse its scent? Is it with ultrasonic atomizers or vibrating membranes, or which sounds very sciencey to me.
Very sciencey, and also happy to dive a little bit into it. OVR has tested and worked with a lot of different technologies to kind of find the optimal version. And with that, had built a varying novel versions and gone through patent processes. So when you're asking about ultrasonic and varying vibrations, the short answer is we've used a few of those. The version right now that is in the Omara device here with the replaceable cassette that has the 16 channels uses a combination of a few different things that are all designed to be miniaturized and fast to control. But the short piece is we are able to get scent particles into air and then rapidly move that air, while at the same time sealing the channels so that there's no latent scent through the process. So by using a series of piezoelectric activations and microvalves, we are able to release the scent to the user on a millisecond scale, and also turn the scent off on the same same time basis, so that as the user breathes, they experience the scent, and then as they breathe out, that very, very small amount of scent is dissipated. So you can have a progression of different scents very quickly back to back. So the question around how it functions is very small, high-tech patented technology, but it is really around using a combination of scented molecules and air movement. I think that covers it wide enough and generally enough, but hopefully gives a little bit of specificity into the fun part of our hardware, which it turns out making it very small and that many scent channels was sort of the hard part. Very easy to take a big room and a big device and just kind of blow scent. But the problem is it doesn't go away quickly enough.
Yes, and I speak from personal experience, having been involved in similar events in the past with similar bits that were very stinky and not a very pleasant experience. Which leads me to my next question, which is what are your thoughts on the research potential for this? Not just gaming, of course, but its usage in serious gaming, thinking like applications in medicine and other areas, that and so forth. Is that something that you guys are kind of thinking about or actively engaged in?
I'll start this, and then some of the fun parts of the actual specifics, Sarah, might be great to answer. Yeah. We love the sort of where gaming is for our kind of beachhead market. The people that we've had experience it, how they've enjoyed it, the options and opportunity to build so many different versions and so many creative ways of kind of building content all kind of fits well into our into where we're headed as a company. But it's a very interesting part of the technology is scent is everywhere in the world around us. So it should be everywhere in the digital space someday as well. So we are very much aware of and in conversations and thinking about everything from health and wellness sort of applications and relaxation and some of the areas there, all the way through increasing in training. And Sarah especially has been supporting researchers kind of around the world and other places that scent might be able to add benefit and get some of those actual science and studies in place.
Yeah, it's a fantastic potential. The reason I asked is because I was once involved many years back with a research project that was medicine based, but it was looking at wounds, and so not the most pleasant of experiences, but they're working with companies that put together scents related to medical conditions and not the kind of thing you want to put in an air freshener in your house, as we sort of said before. But the concept makes me think that this has many applications, that you could apply it to.
And I think one thing you brought up there is something that we hear a lot from game developers in the questions, which is, what about the unpleasant smells? What about the things that you're talking about that have a lot of benefit potentially for the medical simulators? There's a reason that we've gone for scents that are neutral to positive on the valence scale that Sarah spoke to. And it comes down to some of the testing that we've done. And those unpleasant scents are interesting and exciting to smell once or twice. But is that the game experience that you want to have ongoing? So poor scentware team that has had to make the smells of vomit and rotting corpses. We've been down that path. We built some of those scents, and ultimately that is not the ideal experience for more than an instantaneous gimmick and moment, although it can add a lot for that one moment. But for longevity, we have strayed away from that for the specific cassette that we're releasing now.
Yeah, even the poor rotting zombie should smell of roses is what we're saying, really, and we don't want to go too far down the realism track in certain areas, which makes sense.
Make a very calm, relaxing scent that happens before you see the dead zombies, and then the variance can be the thing that the emotional connection comes from.
Yeah, indeed. What are some of the most common questions that you're asked, just in general? I mean, I'm sure we've seen some already, but it's just great to just sort of chat about it. What are some of the common questions that you get asked about your technology in general from game developers, for example?
I will start a little bit on just the software side. George, of course, interacts with a lot of our developers. And I think the questions that we get are, on the technical side of like, where does it make the most sense to put scent? The things that he covered are based on a lot of the questions that we got and thinking about this variation in kind of not just like, oh, there's a tree there, therefore I have to smell a tree, but where are these very kind of specific areas that can add emotional value, and how do we weave them in? And Sarah and George both touched on some of those details, but that's a very common question in kind of in building the story, and is there a single correct way to do it? So finding the right kind of guidance and exciting points. Sarah, George, would either of you like to jump in with anything that that comes up more consistently in your space?
Yeah. Lately, I think scent mixing has kind of been on a lot of developers' minds, and we're really excited to see what we can do on that front. And generally speaking, when people first see the plugin, they're like, how do I think about this? When do I use cone versus the box shape versus the sphere shape? Sort of what's best practices. And, we've learned a lot in-house, but I would also say that it's really like a brand new frontier. It's an open space, and there's a lot to explore and a lot of creativity to explore. So for the most part, my take is there really isn't a right or wrong answer. But of course, Sarah, there are some scent physics and the neuroscience behind it. We will kind of also guide and dictate how things should be best implemented. But from my perspective, once you accommodate for those the neuroscience, so to speak, then it's an open frontier.
Absolutely, George. I think you made a really good point about it being such a new area that people get to explore, which has been something that's really exciting for us at OVR, and to be able to have it out in the wild and to have developers be able to use the tools and see what they can do. One of the biggest things that I also think's come up, which Sam did touch on, is about kind of the RGB of scent. So really understanding that this is not, unfortunately, that would make my job a lot more fun in some ways, to be able to have the kind of CMYK or RGB of scent, but to be able to think about scent in the way that it is naturally a little bit more like cooking with spices, where you can kind of have the layers of scent all be there, but they're kind of discrete, and to be able to use that in the visual and auditory cues to be able to lean the perception of scent, that the visuals themselves and just the other context clues can do so much just by being able to smell a specific thing. It really changes the way that people interact. And then also thinking about it from the emotional perspective, the way it taps into memory, like that, there's a lot of application, as Sam has also mentioned, but besides the kind of the immersive aspect, which is really that one-to-one, I see something, I smell something, but there's a lot of ways to be able to drive emotion that can lean itself more into like the wellness or relaxation aspects of it that are, I think, is important for developers to remember as they're thinking through this totally new medium to them. In some ways, it's new in the digital sense, but everyone smells things. Everyone has a nose. Fortunately, some people might have better noses than others, but we use it in our day-to-day life that guides us.
Yeah, somebody just posted, Kyleel was talking about a mobile game where you play as a blind individual, but it actually strikes me to take that a step further. Some of our diversifiers, for example, challenge folks to really think about game accessibility. So thinking about players who may be blind in real life, visually impaired, and how use of this additional sense is actually, really is a new frontier of game design and for potential for accessibility. And if we can roll on to the next one, which is taste the game as well as smell. I mean, the sky is almost the limit, right? Where does this end? Does it end?
Absolutely. A big part of food, the actual perception, I'm the science side, so I'm a little bit of a science nerd here, but it does come from the smell coming through what you're eating. So even being able to bring the food aspects in a game more to life, but also really love the idea of accessibility and thinking about how rich your sensory experience can be, and to be able to provide an even more immersive and in-depth experience for people that might be blind or have other aspects going on there.
And I saw a couple people mention throughout using scent as a cue for something like danger. But we've also talked about it in the idea that, all the data that's on a screen that can be your health, your shields, all those different pieces. There's a concept that when your health drops past a certain point, would you need a bar if there was a little scent cue that let you know, and that could be your time to try to hide. Those little pieces that cross into accessibility, but also just in like creating something where you might need less data around the edges if you can use Scent as a cue is something that we and some of the developers we've spoken to have explored. So those creative aspects that developers can bring are very exciting.
Yeah, and I guess some of the groundwork was laid, with the advent of just general haptic feedback. I mean, at a basic level, you have a rumble pack in your hand, and some people, for example, you may choose to not have a health bar or some kind of visual thing, but you may just ping the haptic feedback just like the sound of the feel of a beating heart, or it's just a natural extension of those additional immersive options that you have, which take away the need to have all of this stuff always on the screen. So maybe in the future, we'll do away with HUDs, visual HUDs at least entirely, and we'll do everything via a more sensorial kind of point of view. It just opens up a whole avenue of potential creativity with the way we interact with games and other products.
And I love your connection to the Rumble Pack as well, because it's one of the things we think about in kind of the introduction of new technology is in the beginning, sometimes it's not always 100% clear all the ways you can use it. But I very much remember after using it, and then years later, a controller was released without vibration and how lacking that felt in my experience. And I think that concept of once you've gone through this new kind of modality and added Scent, and then what it can feel like after is it can feel a little different and a little duller in a way that you're like, oh, I want that back in the experience. And we're on the very early stages of it. I look forward to a future in which the digital world is Scent enabled.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait actually to see what kind of games that people come out with and how this is going to be harnessed. And I guess for you guys, once you get it out there in the wild, it's going to really be, I would imagine, a learning process for yourselves as well, to see just how far people can push things and take you in new directions that you perhaps haven't thought of yourselves, which is quite often the case once you get a wide audience interacting with your technology and making use of it in different ways.
We can't wait for that, and we're very excited to be a part of this program too, because it does open the door, and we're very much looking forward to seeing things that we haven't even thought of, as well as helping support some of the things that were already on track for our discoveries.
Awesome. Well, I, for one, am so pleased that we were able to partner up with you guys this year. I think the Diversifier is so interesting and unique. I think what you guys are doing is so unique and innovative, and I think there's great potential to just revolutionize the way that we play and experience our games in the future. And I'm sure everybody watching is now thinking, oh wow, I really want to play with this, want to experience it. And as you say, this idea of the Rumble Pack and that kind of affinity that we have with this tech that's now the norm. And it may not be long before we, as you say, we see this additional sensorial experience becoming the norm, and we're going to miss it when it's not there. Absolutely, for sure. So I'm just conscious of the time. So I think we can probably just about wrap that up there, guys. I just want to thank you so much for giving us your time and taking the time to explain your Omara platform. I think it's an amazing piece of kit, and I'm sure everybody can't wait to see what happens with this and to take it forward in the future. So as always, folks, don't forget, we're knee-deep in our prep week, and there'll be more webinars to come over the next day or two. And don't forget, we have our live theme reveal globally at 5 p.m. this coming Sunday. So if you're interested in finding out what the official Global Game Jam overall theme is for this year, we'll be revealing that exclusively this coming weekend. And as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and keep helping us spread the good word of Game Jam, especially in areas with communities don't often get the chance to participate in these events. You're really helping us do God's work in that sense. So keep at it, folks. And I just want to thank you all again for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.